We're going to talk about the reporting that's available to you in the Sage Intacct product. So I've just got a couple quick little slides here, and then we'll jump into a demo here in the product to show you. So the power of reporting in Intacct, we do have dynamic filtering on reports, whether that be on our different dimension values or our time periods. There's a variety of filtering and formatting options available on your standard reports as well as on any reports that we write within the system. And then we have a built-in financial report writer in Intacct, as well as a custom report writer that are both included in the standard product. So no additional charges to have those modules available to you. There is an additional interactive custom report writer that's a little more advanced than the standard custom report writer, and that is an add-on module that can be purchased. We are not planning to cover that today. That may be covered in a future webinar. But so everything that I'll be showing you today will be standard that's available in the core products when you purchase your Intacct subscription. So with that, we'll jump over to the product here. So we're just in a demo company here in our Sage Intacct environment. And I just want to show you a few of the standard reports that are available and how some of those work. And then we'll look at the financial report writer as well as the custom report writer. So in all of the modules, you will see a group of standard reports that come with the system. So if you look at the general ledger, for example, we've got some account balances, activity reports, some budget reports, journal entries, general ledger details. So quite a few reports that are available just standard in the product. One of my favorites is the general ledger report. It has a great deal of data that's available to you that you can drill down on and really get into the detail in the system. So as I mentioned, in our filtering, we do have options for various time periods. So we can choose from our reporting periods, current month, future time periods, prior. We can get specific and pick specific reporting periods that we've set up. So we've got a healthy list of options here that we can select from and use those in conjunction with our as of date. To get a specific time period, but we can also then just put in a start and end date so we can get very specific and drill down and very granular in our dates if we want to see detail in our general ledger. So we can put in a start and end date and get a very finite amount of detail. If you are in a multi-book environment where you've got consolidations or maybe cash and accrual and you have different reporting books or even have set up some user-defined books, you'll have options to choose which book you want to include. If you have multiple books, you can include those to combine those. So if you've set up the GAAP book or the tax book, or again, you've got allocations, eliminations, and your consolidations. Any of those that you've set up, you have the option of including those and combining those in your book, or you can just see your basic cash or accrual, whatever you set as your default reporting book. In this particular report, I've got filtering on GL accounts, so I can pick a specific GL account to include or a range of accounts. I can choose multiple accounts if they're not in a contiguous range, or I can say all accounts. I can also leverage my account groups that I've created and select an account group. So if I know I want my net income account group that I've created, I can include all accounts in that account group. I can choose statistical accounts. And then I've got filtering on all of my dimensions that are set up. So even though I'm in the general ledger, if I want to filter on a specific vendor and see what detail has been included, I'm going to take this back to all accounts so we can see what's in there for that particular vendor. I can filter on any and all of those dimensions and see what's available there. And then all of the reports will have a formatting section here. So I can choose different formatting. So in this particular report, I can choose which dimensions to show on my report. I can show if I want to see zero balance accounts with activity or only if they have a balance. I can see summary level detail transactions, and then additional information to show. And then I've got grouping options. So if I want to group those by maybe my department dimension, I can choose that. And then I can put some titles on there, some footer text, etc. So you can see I've got a great deal of information that I can choose to both filter and format this report to really get me the information that I'm looking for. And I'm just going to change this to current year and see if I get any data for that particular vendor. And I can then view that report. So I'll see all of the transactions. And again, when I'm viewing a report, because it is a live version of the report, anything that's in blue, I can click on, and that's a hyperlink, so I can drill down. So if I want to actually look at this particular bill, I can drill down on that. So my reporting gives me the information that I'm looking for and that data that I need, but it also gives me that power and that ability to drill through the system and really find out what it is that I'm searching for and get to that detail information. I also have the option to print the report. I can email directly from this report. So I can send it out to another user if someone's asked a question on that, or even someone outside of the system. I can export the report as an Excel file, a CSV file, etc. So I've got a lot of options here with the standard report. And again, these are available throughout all of the modules. So if I look in my accounts payable module, I've got a great deal of reports and options here that I can choose and run. And again, as we look at different reports, you'll see very similar options for my time period selections, my filtering. Not all the reports have the same filtering options because obviously you're looking at different data, but you do have filtering options and formatting options on every report that comes in the system. So those are just standard reports that are available in the system with the modules that you're using. And so those are all available to you. And then additionally, we all, have those nice, pretty financial reports that we need to create. So our balance sheets, our cash flows, our profit and loss statements. And so we have built in a financial report writer. Your system should come with some sample reports. So these are kind of built off of, some overall use of the system that Intacct has determined are widely used. So we've got, a detailed balance sheet, a condensed balance sheet. When we look at profit and loss, we've got, some actual versus budget. So we've got some reports already built in the system that you can certainly leverage and use as a starting point. You can then edit those if you have just some tweaks to make to those reports, or you can just start from scratch and create your own report. So the financial report writer, if you look at new reports, I can just create a brand new report here. And this is just going to be a wizard that's going to walk you through creating a report. So the first thing we need to do is give it a name. So we'll just call this our P&L. And then I've got some options here to make this active. My report structure, if I want account or dimensions as my rows. And then I'm going to walk through the wizards here. We do have some more detailed webinars that we've had in the past that you can go and view, as well as some scheduled future webinars that will go into a great deal more detail on creating reports and editing reports that you can certainly sign up for and watch. But we just want to kind of give you a quick little overview here. So our account groups are everything for our reports. So they tell us, we create those, and that defines what we're going to include in our report. So I'm just going to create a net income group here. And because I've predefined that, that's going to create my rows on my reports here. And then I'm going to create my columns. I'm going to tell it in this particular case that I want actuals, but I'm going to change that to my year-to-date actuals instead of current month. And then one of the powerful things with the reporting that I really like is that I can preview it as I go to see if I'm getting the data that I want. So I can preview that and look at this and see, yes, I'm getting a year-to-date P&L number, That's what I was expecting. It looks nice and pretty like I want it to. So I'm happy with that, and I can go back and kind of finish out my formatting and create my report. Maybe I want to add a column here and show my actual, but I want to show for a prior year so I can see a comparative. So now I've got my year to date for current year, prior year next to it. So very easy to create some reports in the system and be able to leverage those and then edit those. And again, we've got options for filtering. So if you want to filter on any of your dimensions, you can have those available as filters. You can prompt when you run the report, so that it will ask you what data set you want to run this report on for any of those dimensions. You can also prompt on date in your reporting book. So if you have multiple books, again, like those standard reports, I can prompt for that. And then we can get really crazy in our formatting for the report. So we've got some general formatting here that we can do, some page-specific and column-specific formatting with titles and logos, footer text. If we are running these reports to a PDF, what color fonts and size fonts do we want to include if we want them bold and italicized, et cetera. So really can get crazy with that formatting. And then our rows and totals, we can determine if we want underlining on any of the totals, if we want to have blank spaces on any of the rows. Maybe we want to see a currency symbol on the total for our net income loss. So you can really get very finite in your details on your formatting as well for your report. And so we'll just save that. And then our financial reports, again, we can run any of them that are out here. So we can click on those and run those. It'll prompt based on any of our prompts that we have defined and run those reports. We can run them to Excel. We can email directly from here. We can print the reports, or again, because I've run it as a live version, anything that is a blue hyperlink I can drill down on so I can get to that detail. So very powerful reporting tools in the system that show you your data that you need, but also give you that drill down capability and additional functionality that really gets you some detail that is useful for you and your accounting team and your operations to really look at those reports and get to that information that you're looking for and need. Okay. So in addition to our financial report writer, we also have a custom report writer. So this is really intended more for kind of some of those non-financial reports that we need to really be able to look at in the system. And so it's not necessarily going to be the nice, pretty, polished reports that we see like on our P&L and our balance sheet here, but it gets us that additional kind of data that we're looking for. So to create any custom reports, you'll need to have access to platform services or customization services in your system. One of the two will have that under there. And then we're going to go to our custom reports. Typically, there's not sample custom reports out there. There are some that the system we can install if there are certain things that you might need. So we're just going to start with creating a custom report here. And again, we have some prior webinars as well as some future webinars planned that go into a lot more detail on this that will be useful for you if you really want to drill into how you create these custom reports. But we're just going to look at adding one. And the first thing, and typically the most complicated aspect of this, is determining what your data source is. So where is the data that you're trying to get your information from? So are we looking at AP bills, or are we looking at the detail on the AP bill? Are we looking at journal entries? So if we go down here and scroll down to GL, we have GL journals, GL entries, transaction history, general ledger detail. So you really have to kind of play around with this sometimes to determine, which actual data source and object is going to have the information that you're looking for. So again, sometimes this is the most complicated aspect of this, is figuring out what your data source needs to be. So I'm just going to pick something here pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go down to my AP and I'm going to pick my vendor. And then I'm just going to walk through this wizard, and it's going to show me all of the fields that are available associated to vendor or that are linked to that vendor object that I can choose to include on my report. So if I want to see my vendor ID and the vendor name and see my custom field that I've created on whether or not I've received a copy of their W-9 and have that on file. And you can always tell the custom fields are going to be those denoted with this little red box. So you know those are custom fields in the system that you've created. And then maybe I want to see their, let's see, what else might be good to show? Their tax ID to see if I've got their tax ID information on there. And maybe I want to see if they're 1099 reportable. So what their 1099 box and type. So a lot of these things you could also do with a custom list view. So this is something that, you know, in this particular example, something that I could also do through just a list view. I don't have to create a custom report, but this just gives me another avenue to get to that data. So once I've added all of my columns, I'm going to just walk through this wizard here. I can do calculations in here, and I'm going to tell it the order of the field. So I'm just going to click and drag and drop those in the order that I want and walk through this wizard. And again, at any point, I can run this report and view that to see my reports, my data. So here's my list of vendors with my vendor names, my 1099 box and form default, the tax ID, and then whether or not I've received a copy of their W-9 in that field. So you can see here, I've created a pretty quick little custom report that's going to let me, you know, review at the end of year whether or not I've had copies of W-9s, if I've got tax IDs filled out, and if they're 1099 reportable and what that default is. So pretty quick little way to get some useful information that I can review. So some other custom reports, you know, that we've created for different clients that we've found are helpful. You know, a journal audit. So we've created a report that we can run based on a time period, specific location. And we created this particular report that shows journal entries with the account level detail and the dimensions, when that was created and when it was modified. So I can quickly look through this and see if a journal entry was potentially modified in a later period. So if something changed on my financials, maybe I haven't closed my period yet and something changed, I can scroll down and see through this custom report that this journal entry was created on the 4th and it was modified at that same time. It hasn't been modified since then, since it was initially created. So then I don't have to worry that something changed on that journal entry. But if I see that the modified date is later, then obviously that's a journal entry that has changed. So this just is an example of a particular custom report that we've created for a client. We have also created reports that give us a more condensed look at permissions and users. So I can actually run this for all users and see all permissions. If you need that for auditors, sometimes that can be helpful because if they are asking for who has your users and what they have permissions to in the system, if you need to get that in detail for all users, you have to go in and click on that for each user or each role and see who's assigned to that. So it can be a lot of clicking to get them that data in a condensed view. So creating a custom report just allows us to have that for all users. So I can scroll down. You can see this user has a lot of access. But if I keep going here, got to my next user, I can see what module, what task, and then what their permission level is. And then I can also see, in this particular case, we put included in here when that was created and then when it was modified. So if something changed on their permissions, you would be able to see that as well. So just some examples of some custom reports that we've created for clients that have been helpful for them. And again, we can certainly help with those ourselves, but you can certainly work with those and try to create those because again, it's just a wizard. You'll choose your data source. So in this case, we were looking for user permissions and then which fields and elements of our data do we want to include. So we wanted to see our user ID and our username and what application it was, what the policy was, what their rights are when created and when modified. So we can include all of those data elements in our reports. As I mentioned, there is also an interactive custom report writer that's a more advanced custom report writer. It's got some kind of drag and drop functionality that you can create some kind of more advanced custom reports. That is an add-on module. So it's not included in the standard product, and we're not going to cover that today, but just wanted to let you know that there is additional custom report writing available as well if you need something a little bit more advanced than this functionality gets you as a standard module.